In this video, we're going to talk about my top 3 tips for raising your self-worth so you can be confident in any situation. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Tom, and I'm a 30-year-old computer engineer starting YouTube on the side. Right now, I've got a pretty great life. I'm in good shape. I've got a good job. I've got this nice house. I have an amazing wife.
Nice.
And a pretty cute dog. I'm not putting that in the video. But I wasn't always like this. In the past, I've gone through rough patches. There were points where I was a lazy fat drunk. And I had trouble going out and socializing, especially with women. There were times that I bombed job interviews, and even if I did get the job, a lot of the time I would have imposter syndrome. It's taken me 30 years to get to this point where I feel like I finally got the tools that I need to deal with these feelings of low self-esteem, low self-worth whenever they come up. Because I don't know if we'll ever be able to get away with going through life without ever having problems again, but I genuinely feel way more confident. I feel way better about myself more often. And now I feel like when these feelings kind of come up, I can course correct a lot faster. And hopefully some of my thoughts and some of these experiences that I'm about to share will help you guys too. All right, the first tip is probably the hardest pill to swallow, and that is that you need to get out of your own way.
Me personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
It's much easier for us to blame our issues on our environment. The people, the things, the places, the events around us. It's a lot more comforting to think that our environment has a way bigger impact on our lives than it actually does, because it absolves us of the consequences of our own actions, or inactions, depending on how you look at it. And regardless of your beliefs in free will or self-agency or luck, whatever it is, there's no real use in blaming your environment. There's no point in blaming external factors for any shortcomings that you feel like you might have, other than in the case where your environment is something that's within your control that you can change to improve your life. So I'll give you an example. If you are struggling with a substance abuse, let's say, if you're constantly hanging out with your friends are always out drinking or getting high, then of course ultimately you're the person who's deciding to put those substances into your body. But clearly this is a case where your friend group is having a bad influence on you and it's making you struggle to do the things you need to do, which is to step away from that substance that you're having problems with. So in that case, it is important that you're able to identify the issue, but then once you do identify the issue, it becomes an internal blocker. If you know that a certain person in your life or a group of people in your life are holding you back from doing things, they're making it harder for you to progress forward, then it's on you, once you realize that, to put some distance between you and them. That's on you. That's within your control. Okay, the second point is that competence equals confidence, which equals evidence.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Faking until you make it, or just love yourself the way you are, that only gets you so far. There is a place for that kind of stuff, but it's really just to kind of get you through the day, to kind of shut off those voices in your head that are maybe keeping you from getting started, keeping you from doing the things on a day-to-day basis that you need to be doing. If you constantly have to fake confidence, you have to constantly force yourself to try and love yourself the way you are, then at a certain point, it just becomes delusion. So I'll give myself as an example. Pretty recently, I decided I wanted to make a small pivot in my career back to some engineering discipline that I had done previously. So I had a few years of experience, but it had also been a couple of years since I actually did that very specific work. And when I started applying for jobs, I felt like I'd become so rusty that it almost became difficult for me to just apply to jobs because I was so anxious about the thought of having to go to interviews and go through these technical questions that I really felt like all my skills in this area had atrophied. Now, of course, I did have transferable skills, both technical and non-technical, but that aspect of the job that I was kind of going back to, especially because I felt like I had a couple of years of experience on paper. It was about like 7 years of experience on paper, but it had been a couple years since I'd last done it, and even then I only had a couple years of experience before that. I felt very insecure and I felt like I had imposter syndrome even just applying to jobs, let alone getting into the interview. Now, if I just lied to myself and said, Tom, you know this, you got this, you've done this before, it'll come back to you at some point in the interview, you can talk your way out of whatever, I would have bombed the interviews and I wouldn't have gotten any job offers. Okay, so what did I do? I started with the beginning, basically, as if I was a beginner again. I went through all the beginner tutorials, all the information I could find online, just to refresh those core concepts. And then after that, I went into more advanced design concepts. And then lastly, I went to the company's Glassdoor page and looked at previous interview questions to see if there were any questions that were similar across candidates that maybe it was a common question that I would have been asked. So that way I could target my studying, on those specific questions. So if I got asked again, I'd be able to ace it. So I'd done all the things to prepare for this interview or these interviews that I would have needed to do anyway. I refreshed my skills, I learned some new concepts, I prepared for job-specific interview questions potentially popping up, and what did this do for me? It led me to be more confident in the interview. When I was asked technical questions, I knew what I was talking about, it was still fresh in my mind, and I was able to get through those questions without too much drama, and so by getting those questions right, that kept my confidence level up throughout the whole interview. And then for other parts of the interview, like connecting with the interview panel and maybe some of the behavioral questions, I was just more relaxed and I could kind of just be myself. And that way I'm not stuttering over my words and, all the kind of things that I do when I'm nervous. And ultimately it worked. I got a job and I'm there now and I'm really happy with it. Okay, the third point is affirmations and mantras. Now, this is going to sound like it's kind of contradicting the last point, but it's not.
What do you mean by that?
Think about it like this. Think about competence, the last point we just talked about. Think about that like you're cruising along the highway at full speed, okay? The affirmations is kind of like speeding up onto the on-ramp, right? You can't get onto the highway if you're going too slow. You need that momentum, you need that speed built up so that way you can merge on and then you can be successful moving along the highway at full speed. And even though these mantras or affirmations kind of sound like hippie spiritual stuff, there actually is some science behind it. There are two concepts in particular that I learned later, but they actually help explain some of my behaviors from back in the day. So the first is Bandura's self-efficacy, and basically what this says is that a person's belief in themselves actually significantly influences their motivations, their behaviors, their emotional responses to things. So in other words, you can't actually do anything if you don't believe that you're capable of doing it, right? So like, if you say something, I can't do this for whatever reason, and then someone else says, well, not with that attitude, this is basically the science behind that. Now again, using myself as an example, I remember a couple years ago, I was home from college on a break, and I put on the freshman 15 between the dining halls having all you could eat and me drinking a lot and not exercising. Things got a little out of hand. And I remember I was at my parents' house, I was sitting down on the couch watching TV in the middle of the day, and this infomercial came on for like a weight loss program or something. And, they showed the before and after pictures. And a lot of these people are in like their 30s, 40s, some of them are even like 50s and 60s. And it showed the weight loss before and after. They lost a ton of weight, they looked good. I mean, they didn't look like supermodels, but they looked pretty good for their age. They looked fit, healthy. And I just remember sitting there watching this infomercial and thinking to myself, I wish I could be like that. And at the time, I genuinely thought I could not be like that. Like, I wasn't capable of losing a couple of pounds and looking better and feeling better about myself. A few seconds later, it finally clicked. Like, these are just normal people. Like, I'm not any different from them. I can do this if I set my mind to it.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
So sometimes we don't even realize that we're talking ourselves out of something, but really the first step is believing that you're capable of doing it. I also think that this explains a lot of the reason why people who are constantly surrounded by other people who are successful, whatever that is, whether it's job, business, fitness, relationships, whatever it is, if you are constantly surrounded by people who have that success, that what you define as success, right? If you see other people doing those things, you know that it's possible. You know these people, you know that they're normal, average, everyday people, maybe not average, but you know that they're just everyday people just like you, and that if they can do it, you can do it too. Versus if you're in an environment where everyone's always talking themselves out of things, I'll never I'll never make any money, I'm just this or that, oh, I'll never be fit, I'm not like them, blah, 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 whatever it is, then you're gonna think that way too. The second piece of scientific evidence is Hebb's law, which states that neurons that fire together wire together. Basically, the more you repeat these neural pathways in your mind, the stronger the connections get and the easier it becomes in the future for those neurons to fire. Kind of like the expression practice makes perfect, this also explains why it's so hard to get going, to just start doing things that we know we need to do, because those neural pathways haven't been kind of carved out yet from us doing the thing over and over and over again. When it comes to fitness, for example, something that you'll hear a lot of coaches and online influencers talk about if you're just trying to start the fitness journey is that they'll say you gotta just show up, right? I've even heard coaches prescribing just 15 to 30 minutes at the gym for new clients, and they tell them after that 15 to 30 minutes, whatever it is, leave the gym. It doesn't matter if you want to keep working out, just leave. Just show up and leave. You don't even have to do anything. Just go to the gym, be there for 30 minutes, and then head home. The reason why this is so effective is because it makes the process of going to the gym so easy that you're willing to keep doing it. And then over time, those neural pathways, they strengthen, and in the future, when your fitness goals expand and you need to spend more time in the gym, it becomes easier for you to actually go and do those things and fit it into your schedule. Versus if you try and go for gold right off the rip, then you're probably not going to do it. Your brain is just going to be fighting you the whole time because it's a new habit, right? You haven't built that repetition yet. All right, guys, so that's 3 things that I've used in my life personally to kind of overcome some feelings of low self-esteem, low self-worth. Don't click off yet. This video is actually part of a little experiment that I'm running to see if small creators like myself can sort of hack their way into making better YouTube videos and hopefully performing well on the YouTube algorithm. So if you're interested in learning about that, check out my previous video, I'll link it somewhere around here, to see the setup for this experiment, and then subscribe to the channel to be notified when I post the follow-up video to this. I'm going to see how this video performs, and I'm going to be going over whether or not the experiment was a success or a failure. And if it is a success, how much of a success? Was I able to hack my way to millions of views? I doubt it. If you're watching this, you're probably one of maybe 10 people that's seen it, but who knows? So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.